Guile here. Let me get a thumbs up in the stream if you can hear me loud and clear. I'd appreciate it. And I've actually got the stream, should be popping off running on my end here in a minute. So I can tell myself if I'm loud and clear after the ad, of course. So we got one in the live stream sitting so far, and that's probably actually me sitting there. So
this food saved America during the Great Depression. It's high end.
Far, and that's probably there you go. Yeah, so we are streaming, we are live. What's up, everybody? All one of yous. I guess I better sit here and twiddle my thumbs a few minutes until people start popping in. I wish I had one of those fancy countdown things, but I'll just sit here looking stupid until we get started. Okay, so we got 6 all of a sudden. What's up, everybody? Good to see you're popping in. 6, 7. Yeah, if you could just throw a thumbs up in the stream and maybe leave a comment, let me know you can hear me loud and clear. And this is just sort of an impromptu stream. I've got a few things that I wanted to talk about, and we can take it wherever you guys want to go with it. So I'll be monitoring the chat. Just ask me anything sort of section. Really, I think the big thing is, you know, I know that there's, well, I'm aware now certainly that there's been things going around being said about me that just simply aren't true. And so I put out that video yesterday or whatever because I wasn't going to make it to the Flat Earth meetup over the weekend, which I did want to attend. I didn't even know there was one until very recently, but I guess I'm kind of glad that things occurred the way that they did, you know, because it kind of caught me by surprise when I talked to Cammie, and it's like, I'm going to make people uncomfortable if I go to a Flat Earth meetup. And so the whole thing is just really weird, but there's a lot of other stuff that I want to talk about too, and not necessarily spend the time to put in a video format, but there's always something to talk about in this, right? I don't know how much you guys are following up with the AI front, but I think that's really the biggest thing that's going on right now, and will be the biggest thing going on for a long time to come. I did the video chat GPT as a globetard because this is something that's so important, you guys, and it's a pivotal moment, I think, in the trajectory of where we go as the human race. And if we mess this up, we fuck it up with AI, we're in trouble, man. And I think that we as like-minded, intelligent people really need to come together on this and make sure that we don't put ourselves or, you know, like our grandkids or whatever on a trajectory that's doomed to failure with AI, and that's a very real possibility, I think, especially when you have these sort of biases where ChatGPT is literally a globetard, right? So that's an important thing that's out on my list of potentialities to talk about. Also, the potentiality for litigation with Google, and I've been saying this a long time, but you know, YouTube especially has been in sort of a unique position in terms of litigation because they had always historically been a disinterested third party where people could just, it was like a platform where content creators could post up their work free of any sort of censorship. There was, you know, YouTube really had no dog in the fight, so they weren't like a publisher of content. They were merely a disinterested platform where content publishers could share their content with the world. And so YouTube was sort of in a gray area legally where you can't sue them for certain things. But the instant that YouTube, Google, Alphabet began censoring people, they took on more of an editorial role, which sort of puts them in the category as a publisher, as opposed to just this sort of disinterested third-party platform for publishers to post their content, which thus opens them up to litigation, which, that make no qualms about it. If you're a flat earther trying to put out flat earth information on YouTube, you're going to be censored. And, censoring someone or even treating them any differently than everyone else based on their, and we'll use the term beliefs, that's civil rights violations of sort of the worst kind. And so, I think that eventually I wouldn't be surprised if we see class action litigation. And for all I know, there may be something right now with it. I just don't know. But in terms of class action litigation against YouTube, Google, Alphabet for basically censorship, for civil rights violations. And again, what I mean specifically is at a press conference, one of the chief officers of YouTube was, make no qualms about it, they were bragging about specifically flat earth content, that they were going to make it difficult to find flat earth content. So people are going to have a tough time finding good information. On the other hand, they're going to promote information that sort of toes the line of the status quo and refutes flat earth. And I mean, we see it if you just do a search for flat earth information on Google or YouTube specifically, in this case, you're going to find just never-ending piles of nonsense that is intended to make flat earth information look stupid and look like a theory that's not worth anyone's time. And it's very difficult to find content that's actually the truth, right? Like decent information about flat earth. And so that's not by accident. That's a very deliberate solution to a problem that shareholders seem to have about, well, because flat earth was blowing up online, and with YouTube being the by far largest one of these sort of platforms for video content from the interwebs, right, from everybody out there, there's nothing even close to YouTube. I mean, maybe now for short videos, you've got little niches like TikTok or whatever, but I mean, if you look at the numbers, YouTube is just by far and away it's where people are watching stuff. And so if they are treating content creators differently based on their beliefs, that's, if you get lawyers to look at this, there should be class action litigation room here, because, I can understand YouTube censoring people who are hurting others or giving bad medical advice or something like that, or like jumping off buildings or whatever, foolish content that's going to get people hurt, or like suggesting people do some sort of a challenge involving like NyQuil and chicken, right? Like you've seen that kind of thing. I can understand them censoring people for that, but censoring people for their beliefs, and really, I mean, y'all watching know that flat earth couldn't possibly be a belief. It happens to be the truth. But even calling it censoring people for their beliefs, I mean, that's, I just don't see how they haven't been sued yet. So comments is not, I'm seeing a couple comments in there, but so nothing so far that y'all want to talk about. So I just mentioned quick AI thing, Google litigation thing, and we can loop back to these. I'm just sort of going over what I had on my list. Yeah, NyQuil and chicken. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Another big one, now that we've got 13 people watching, something that's pretty recent, I guess you could say, is the whole Jaron and Nathan thing. And I guess I better go on record about that situation. So first of all, I considered both Jaron and Nathan to be friends for a long time. I guess I kind of got wind of some kind of beef that they had a few years ago, but I didn't really know the extent of it. I try to stay out of drama, right? And I love Jaron to death. That's like my brother. I've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours, working with Jaron on the shows and stuff. And I've never had any kind of problem with Jaron. I don't know Nathan as well, but I've known Nathan equally as long, and I've done hangouts and stuff with Nathan bunches of times. And I've always gotten along great with both of these guys. And so that's why it does kind of, it sucks when you see people that are your friends at each other's, button heads. But it happens sometimes, and I try to stay out of it as much as I can. But in this case, I kind of feel like I was partially to blame for some of the friction, because I had, I watched Nathan's stuff sometimes, and they had been hitting a lot of the celestial navigation stuff, which got me to revisit the topic. And I think it's an interesting topic. And so I had done a video about it, and I saw a clip where Nathan was kind of roasting Jaron a little bit about a hangout or like a debate that he did with McToon. And so I forwarded that to Jaron, and I'm like, hey man, like, I'm not sure what the problem is here between you and Nathan, but he's talking a lot of smack, and like, I think there may be something to celestial navigation thing. But getting in the nitty gritty of it, so the specific point that Nathan was talking about in that instance was there wasn't any Earth curvature involved, because it was two observers only separated by like a kilometer. And so it would be less than a few, just like a few inches of Earth curvature expected within that short of a distance. And so, and anyway, the whole thing got kind of messy, and I didn't realize just sort of how badly Nathan had been attacking Jaron. Like I do watch Nathan's show sometimes, but I can't sit down for a whole entire 3-hour thing. But man, I didn't realize like there was this kind of beef. And now Jaron put out that video yesterday where I hope I didn't have nothing to do with this, and I hate to see my friends at each other's throats, but I will say I kind of disagree with Jaron a little bit that anybody who thinks celestial navigation is a good proof is just blindly following Nathan and doesn't understand it. I kind of get what he's saying. I understand where he's coming from, but I happen to think that there is something to celestial navigation being exclusive to flat Earth, and not just blindly following Nathan, but because in order to get the infrastructure, the intellectual infrastructure in place for the sort of hip pocket celestial navigation calculations to work based on just the elevation angle of the star or the area at equal altitude, in order to get all that set up to work, you have to have a flat surface. Like, you've got to have these very large, many mile baseline right triangles, and in order to get those, you have to have flat Earth. Now, I get the argument that you can use the tangent on a hypothetical sphere, and celestial navigation works for people, even those who think they live on a sphere and are making these spherical corrections to the data. But the point is that celestial navigation was developed on flat Earth by people who knew the Earth was flat and didn't have any sort of illusions about it being a sphere. And then later on, globetards came along and figured out mathemagic to make flat Earth celestial navigation work on a hypothetical sphere, right? But I don't take the position that well, first of all, of course, the Earth isn't a sphere, and so it's sort of irrelevant if you want to debate whether or not celestial navigation could work on a spherical Earth or could have been developed even on a spherical Earth. It's irrelevant because a spherical Earth it is not. But I will say that I agree with Jaron that I don't understand people who dedicate entire shows to calling other flat earthers names and really insulting the shit out of flat earthers. And yeah, I know Jaron was kind of doing that too to Nathan, but like, I don't know. Two wrongs don't make a right. And I just, man, I'm not trying to pick sides here or anything. I hate to see my friends fighting. You know, I think of Jaron as a friend, and I think of Nathan as a friend, and I'm not going to pick sides, but and I'm not going to say who started it or anything like that. I would just say I wish that we could all just get along, because as flat earthers, you know, we take enough flack from everybody else out there. It really sucks when we're worrying about flack coming from within, you know, our own camp. I mean, of course, we're never all going to agree on everything, but I think that the common denominator that we all share is, of course, the fact that we know we're not stuck to the side of a spinning ball flying around through space like some kind of ludicrous, ridiculous fairy tale. I mean, we can all agree on that. And so all of the rest of it is, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we may never know conclusively, and we can disagree on all sorts of things, and that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't expect everybody to disagree. I mean, everybody to agree. It'll probably never happen. And there's just too much stuff out there that's subjective and up to interpretation. And until we're able to really coordinatedly and like as a team go about our future endeavors towards understanding flat earth better, we don't stand a chance, man. And, you know, again, I know we're not all just going to sing Kumbaya by the fire, but at least we could, you know, we could try to set aside the beef and the squabbling and stop name calling and calling each other scammers and shills. I don't, you know, honestly, I don't know. I don't think Jaron's a scammer, and I don't think Nathan's a scammer. I don't think either one of them is a scammer, and it sucks when I see them both calling each other that. And I don't know the extent of the argument. I really don't understand either one of their positions, because I love both these guys, right? As a friend, like no homo stuff, but I love both these guys, and I don't understand really what the problem is. They've had disagreements, names got called, and you know, what can you do? So Arthur Peterson says, so John, a personal question. You and Mina were in a house with rent that had to be a lot cheaper than paying weekly at a motel, yet now you're back in a motel. What happened? Yeah, okay, so we can talk about that. Sure, it's ask me anything. So let's talk about the house. Back in October of 2022, we were living in a hotel then, and one of my neighbors at the hotel needed a ride to go look at a house that he had found on roommate.com as like a shared rental. And I had actually messed around with roommate.com, never got. And I waited outside in the car, and he went in, and I'm sitting out in the car waiting on him. I expected him to be in there a while, and he came out within less than a minute, like maybe 30 seconds. And I'm like, what, did you forget something? He's like, no, I'm done. Let's go. And I'm like, what's wrong with the place? They're not renting it anymore. And he's like, no. He said something along the lines of, it was like a tornado went off in there. It was absolutely disgusting, and he wasn't going to live there. And me being an opportunist, I'm like, well, hold on, I'll go look at it, because we really needed a place to stay. And like you said, paying these hotels, it's like $400. This one I'm in now is like $400 a week, so it is way expensive. And that's the same sort of situation we were when I went to look at this place, and the dude wasn't kidding. Like, so the woman had a bunch of dogs in her side of the house, and like right when you walk in the door, there was dog kennels stacked on top of each other, and the smell just hits you in the face. It was just real strong, carpeted area with just dog feces and urine hits you in the face when you walked in the door. And then so the house was like separated, and so you got her side of the house, which is walk in the front door, it's the living room. Keep going straight, and that's her bedroom. And keep going straight through her bedroom, and that is the one and only bathroom. And it didn't register at the time, but there's only one way in and out of the one bathroom. and only one way in and out of the kitchen on the other side of the house. So the other side of the house, which is the side that we would be renting, you go in through the front door and the dog smell hits you in the face. And then to your right, there's a door which entered into our, like a very little den, like a small bedroom with a closet and a window that was totally clean. There was nothing in it but indoor, outdoor carpeting on the floor with no padding under it or anything, but it was clean. Smelled awful, like feces and urine and stuff, but it was clean enough. And then through there, you go to the kitchen, and the kitchen looks like a tornado went off in there. It looked like a murder scene. There was what I at first thought was everywhere, but it was like a tomato spaghetti sauce jar that had been broken and strewn everywhere. The dishwasher was like upside down, like sitting in the middle of the floor. There was just stuff, dirty dishes everywhere, stacked up in the sink. Underneath the sink, apparently the sink had been leaking, and there was like a bunch of plastic bags just stuffed under there to try to catch the water as it was leaking. It ultimately took me 3 straight days to clean out the kitchen. And so anyway, when I went in there to look at the place, the woman was like telling me that she really needed a roommate bad. She was behind on her bills. She needed help. She works a lot and goes to school, and she like has all these dogs that she told me she volunteered to foster all these dogs. And she basically worked with us on the deposit. Like I was so grateful to her for, because this was like the middle of October, and we didn't have any money coming until the 1st of November. And she told us that we could go ahead and move in and awaiting our check and just pay her once we got paid. And so I was so grateful to her. And like, so part of what I did, like working to clean up the house, went towards the deposit. And then the first one I paid her, we paid her, got receipts for it. We talked about signing a lease agreement, which I never did. You know, we had a verbal agreement, and I paid her and got signed receipts for everything that we paid her. December came, paid her, everything was fine. January came, paid the rent. So everything was fine with payment on the rent until March, when basically my PayPal account got frozen. I was locked out of my funds, and there was a hiccup with funds, and we didn't get behind on the rent. We paid her a partial payment at the beginning of March, and then a catch-up payment towards the end of March. And so we got a little behind on the rent starting in March, but she always got her money. Like, we always paid her. And during this time, like, there was some problems developing over these months. So like the big problem was her dogs. And I tried to help as much as I could. Like, I think she expected me to work full time taking care of her dogs while she was gone. And like, I never signed up for that, but like, if she specifically asked me to do something, I would do it. Like, I never told her no for anything, because again, I felt sort of indebted to her for what she had done. And so like, I did this woman's laundry. I cooked meals for her, helped her with her dogs, took trash out. Like, I mean, I tried to be the best roommate that I could. But when my money got messed up, and a lot of y'all know that my PayPal account was frozen and my money got messed up. A loan that I had sort of been half expecting never happened. And then my PayPal account got messed up. And so there was money issues. And I think it was right around April 1st, or like the week before April 1st, she was basically like, y'all need to move out by the 1st. And this was the first thing that I had ever heard. Like, we're going to pay you, and I don't want to say her name, so I'm like, it's hard for me not to speak fluently. But, well, so yeah, go solo. Yeah, I know, but it costs a lot of money to put down a deposit for first and last month's rent on a place. A lot of these places you've got to pay a application fee to get moved in, or just not even to get moved in. You have to pay like a $25 to $50 application fee just for them to tell you they're not going to rent to you based on your credit sometimes. So that can get very expensive. And then you've got to pay deposits on power, water. I mean, it costs a lot of money to move. And all of our money was getting dumped into hotel rent, which is super expensive. But, you know, you can throw down $400 and get a place for a week. When it comes down to it, if you don't really have a choice it's either that or go sleep in the car with the dog in the street when it's 100 degrees outside. So it's kind of really not even a choice. But it's a trap, and unless you're just absolutely, you know, balling with money, if you're made of money, you can do it, but eventually it's not sustainable and you've got to get out of it. And so, you know, I sort of jumped at the opportunity through this roommate situation. And although, you know, I've had problems in the past with roommates, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. Like I can try to make things work. And so, but so ultimately, and like her and Mina kind of clashed a little bit. Her and Mina didn't really get along for whatever reason. That's besides the point. But so there was that. And it was kind of weird. Like I didn't realize, but she was like filming us in our bedroom. Like, and I didn't know it for a long time. And I thought that was kind of weird. We couldn't get into the bathroom without having to fight off a bunch of dogs. Animal control ultimately came out and took some of her dogs for like neglect or whatever. And she thought that I had called them when I actually didn't. I should have, but I didn't. So there was that. There was just a lot of bad blood. Things were boiling over. And so ultimately we went to court for eviction. And the court date, it was just like, it was last couple Fridays ago. It was 2 Fridays ago. I want to say the 28th. I think it was Friday the 28th. I could be wrong. But we went before the judge. I told the judge that we had been paying her, and now all of a sudden she changed her mind and she wanted us to leave. Mina actually had a stroke during that time. So the story is a little more complex. She was hospitalized for like a week, and the roommate and I kind of like came to another verbal agreement, and I gave her another $1,300 on top of everything just because like she was behind on her stuff, and I did that as a gesture of goodwill. Kept paying her and told all this to the judge, but the long and short of it was, because we didn't have a lease with her, and because she was subletting the house from the person that owned the house was renting it to her, and she was subletting to us as a roommate, and we weren't on that lease with the owner, we didn't have, like, the judge gave us 5 days to move out. So that was on Friday the 28th, and we had to be out by, I think it was Tuesday the 3rd. If I'm not mistaken. It was 5 days. That was it. That was all we had. And so we just didn't have time to do anything. And we had a little bit of money. This hotel room was $400 a week, plus they charged for the dog. It's supposed to be $15 a day for the dog, but if I pay for the dog for 2 weeks, it's only $10 a day. So $140 for the dog and $400 for the room, and then plus a deposit, and it was like $580 or basically $600 just to move into the place for the week. We paid another week, and I've got to come up with money again tomorrow, or I'm gone. I'm out in the street, and I've been sort of expecting $1,200 to arrive like in the mailbox of the house before we moved out, and never arrived. Now I'm kind of half expecting it as a direct deposit, but I don't know if it's going to hit by today or tomorrow. And you know how these hotels are, like they don't want to wait. So there's a very good chance that I'll have to pack up my car with my dog and all Mina's oxygen and everything, and put what we can in the car and leave the rest of our stuff. I guess I'll bring my guitar and my computer, and maybe some of my clothes, but it's not all going to fit. And then I don't know, like it's way too hot just to like park the car at a gas station or something. So I don't know. I mean, and hopefully, you know, it won't come to that. But this is definitely not something that I want to be doing. I'm getting the hell out of here soon. I'm gone as of the first week in September. So I will. I'm moving out to California. I'm going out to Los Angeles next month. So I got to make a change in my life, and I have an opportunity that I can't really pass up. And so I'm gonna do it. So yeah, Arthur Peterson, I hope that answers your question. When the judge tells you you have to leave, you have to leave. And the whole thing was kind of weird. It seemed like this woman had done this sort of thing before, because see, I always was under the impression if you have a verbal agreement and receipts for what you paid, that receipts that this woman had signed over the months, it was over $5,000 worth of receipts. It was weird because at first I had a statement that I wrote out and put on my phone that I was reading the statement to the court. And basically I was explaining how I did work for her and never asked her for anything. But when we first moved in, all of the work I did to get the place livable was supposed to subtract from the deposit, which we had a disagreement about the amount because it was a lot of work and she was talking about $50. And I was like, well, how about we just scratch the whole deposit, But so I met her in the middle with that anyway. So this woman got her money. She got a lot of free work out of me. And when I was explaining to the judge that, I had done this work and that work, the judge was like, yes, but did you pay your rent? And I was like, well, yeah, if you let me get to that. It was very rude for the judge to just interrupt me while I was making my statement. But she was like, did you pay her the rent? And I was like, yeah. And I've got these receipts that she signed. It's over $5,000 worth of rent. And basically that was irrelevant because it all boiled down to the contract. Like when the judge asked for the roommate statement, the judge was like kind of slapping her on the wrist because she didn't even bring the lease with her. She couldn't prove that we weren't on the lease. And so the judge made a note of that. The judge was sort of grilling me about whether or not I paid the rent, which was irrelevant though. Like the whole thing was very fishy. And it just seemed like this woman had done this before. And it seemed like she knew that because of the fact that I wasn't on the contract with the deed holder of the house, that I didn't have a case. And I was thrown out on my ear. I thought we would have some amount of time, but the judge wasn't even interested in looking at the receipts for what I paid. So I guess and I hate to say it, but it seems like I was taken advantage of because I know that there is due process in eviction hearings. I've been on both sides of evictions over the years. And I know that there's due process, but it seems like a loophole to where because it's a roommate situation and because she was subletting, I didn't have a leg to stand on. And I should have gotten a written contract with her, but she never presented one, and I paid her and she signed the receipts, and neither one of us really pushed the issue. And so I didn't think anything of it because, again, I was always under the impression that a verbal agreement and signed receipts for payment were good enough. But it wasn't. It was apparently not good enough. And this woman apparently knew it. And so long and short of it, we had no choice but to leave. And the physical possessions that I've accumulated living there over the last year, I had to leave most of my stuff again. For the umpteenth time. I mean, I don't really get attached to material possessions anymore, but it does, it's a hard thing to go through to have to lose all your stuff, man. I mean, I've got some of my clothes, my guitar, and my computer, and whatever. I'll live, I don't need all the tables and the super nice gliding rocking chair that Mina really loves so much that we got at the thrift store for $20 that was handmade, and you'll never find another one like it. But there's others, it's not that big a deal. You're not going to take it with you when you die. But at the same time, it is, it's a tough thing to go through, especially when you've been through this before, which is why, I don't get too attached to things like putting nice furniture in the house, or, getting attached to these material things, because if you're renting, in any sort of a lease situation with your home, just don't get too attached to things, man. I mean, maybe if you own your home and you own it outright and it's been in the family for years, you can fill up your home with nice stuff that nobody will ever take away from you. But then again, you're going to die. So we're all going to die one day too, and you can't take it with you when you die. So there you have that. Hopefully that was answered. So let's talk about this pull the knife thing, because this really bothered me. I made the video the other day, but I was talking with Cammie about potentially going to this flat earth meetup that's right down the road. And basically Cammie tells me that I need to make amends with these people. And I'm not going to say the names, but if y'all know who they are, you know who they are. And if you don't know who they are, then you don't know who they are. It's irrelevant. But when I asked Cammie, what does she mean about making amends? Like what exactly happened? Because I never could figure out what the problem that these people had with me since I had last seen them was either. I thought it was about some stupid things. But the way that it was related to me is that the rumor was going around that I pulled a knife on these people's youngest daughter, who's like a 7-year-old kid or something, 10-year-old kid, which isn't true. And so I reached right out to these people about it. And I'm like, do you have any idea why people are saying that I pulled a knife on your daughter? And dude was like, no, what? Like he didn't know anything about that. But then I got another text message back from him saying that I had pulled a knife on my wife. And so basically the thing was, if I was to plan on showing up to this flat earth meetup, his wife wasn't comfortable around me because I pulled a knife on my wife. She's sitting right here. Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea why people would be saying I pulled a knife on you?
Don't put me in all that. No, I don't. I want to get in it.
So, I mean, there you have.
I don't know.
So I'm between a rock and a hard place because, first of all, I'll be the first to tell you, I really don't care what people think of me. But at the same time, if there's rumors going around that people don't feel comfortable with me being at a flat earth meetup, as if I'm some sort of villain, right? Like that's not cool. And especially when now, like it's coming to my ear that there's little kids involved, which by the way, that little kid, I would walk out into traffic for, you know what I mean? And actually they had 3 youngins that were of varying ages. And I felt like I was friends with all of them. Like I got along really well with these people, which is why, and by the way, with these people, I had always tried to be very respectful and helpful as much as I could, and very courteous, and never said 2 cross words to any of them. Like I considered these people friends. And so the way that I met up with them, so let's go all the way back to the beginning. Amina and I had been staying at Wood Springs Extended Stay, and this would have been like August of 22. We had been staying at Wood Springs Extended Stay for months and paying out the ass for months. And we were paid up we paid our rent every week on like Friday or something. And they had always worked with me. Like usually I'd pay the rent early, but then sometimes if my check wasn't going to hit, or if our money wasn't going to hit until a couple days after the rent was due, they would wait and just make me pay a late fee. And it was never a problem. But so one time there was a new general manager. Wood Springs had gone through several general managers from the time that I was there, and she was a hard ass. They really didn't like me because I had actually opened a Federal Trade Commission suit against them. because they had been overcharging me and trying to overcharge me for different services that I wasn't participating in through the hotel. So it was a thing. They kept trying to hit my card for amounts that I didn't authorize. So there was definitely something fishy going on with Wood Springs. And so I opened an FTCC case against them, and they got audited, and they started going through general managers, and so their management hated my guts, and I had to live there. So the woman that was the new general manager, she had to move to take over because they had gone through 4 or 5 general managers over the year, 6 months that I was there or whatever. And so she hated my guts from the get-go. And so the rent was so it was the weekend and the rent was due. And I told her, well, actually, so I had my receipt for when I paid the rent on Tuesday, and I paid for a week. And here it was Friday, and she's telling me I needed to leave because the rent was past due, which it wasn't, but in their computer system, they saw that it was. And she hated me, but I had my receipts. She called the police and signed a trespassing warrant on me. And because it's a hotel, the police came up and said I had to leave. And I'm trying to show them, well, no, I just paid my rent on Tuesday. Here's my receipt. They wouldn't even look at it, because the woman signed a trespassing warrant, and it's a hotel. Hotel has different license abilities or whatever, and so I was out on my ear. But while I was moving my stuff out, they ran my name, and I had a warrant, a bench warrant for failure to appear, I think. And so they arrested me on the spot. And while I'm getting arrested, my wife didn't have anywhere to go, and so she went and stayed with these people that we're talking about here. Okay, so I was in jail for a few weeks, and when I got out, this is where I came to meet up with my wife, and that's where she was staying. So hopefully this context, so now you understand why, the whole thing was a very uncomfortable situation for me. I'm not the type of person that enjoys being homeless. I don't know anybody that would be. But when you just get out of jail and you don't have anywhere to go, I was extremely grateful to these people for, letting my wife stay there and giving me a place to sort of crash land when I got out. With that being said, there was a lot of disturbing stuff going on at this house. And it's nothing like drugs or anything. These people are not on drugs or nothing like that, which is good. But man, I've never seen a house more disarrayed and just covered in filth, and children living like absolute animals, man. It was disgusting. And I didn't make a big deal of it. I didn't say anything. I was not gonna try to embarrass somebody, but what I did do was try my best to straighten shit out and organize it while I was there. Because I'm telling you, there was nowhere to set your feet down. And also so the kids' TV set was broken and their Xbox was broken or something. They didn't have no TV and no video games. And it just so happened that I had a big screen TV and an Xbox in my car that I just set up and told them they could use it as if it was their own. And I didn't give it to them, but I was just what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. I was just trying to be nice, right? But dude, there was chickens running around free reign of the property. So the front porch was filled with chicken feces and dog feces and dog urine. They had 2 lovely dogs. I love their dogs too, but it was a mess. It was an absolute mess, living like animals. And so, again, I didn't make a big deal of it. I didn't say anything, but I tried, at least for my part, to straighten it up a little bit as best as I could. I did what I could. Okay. It was a big issue if I brought a pepperoni pizza home, but that's got pork in it, and so that was a big deal, and I didn't think about it. I was told that I spilled a beer in this dude's tent, and he told me that really pissed him off, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Weird. The weirdest thing, so they had been on the phone with their son who was in jail, and dude's wife comes into the house where I think I was sitting on the couch or watching the kid play the video game or setting the video game up or something. And she came in crying because she had just got off the phone with her son that was in jail. And just as like a totally innocent thing, I was like, I'm sorry. And I touched her shoulder. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know it's hard, but your son's going to be fine. Something like that. Totally innocent. Like just a touch on the shoulder. The next day or days later, but at some point later, dude came to me pretty upset. Not that I had touched his wife, but because she was bleeding at the time. She was having her period at the time. And it is basically a sin for me to touch another man's wife while she's bleeding. And honestly, like, first of all, that to me, that's really weird for a man to tell another man about his wife bleeding. Second of all, I've been married to the same woman for 20 years. I don't have anything for his wife. I was really just trying to be like a friend. And it didn't seem like she took it wrong or anything. It was just all a very innocent, brief exchange. But like, apparently it got escalated to something else that it never was. Like, telling me that it's a real bad thing that I just touched her on the arm while she was having her period because she's unclean and all that. That's weird to me. Like, I don't get that. And I certainly didn't mean to offend anybody, but that's weird. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I've had lots of friends over the years that are females, and I've never heard that before in my life. You know what I mean? I don't know. So there was weird stuff going on, and like, I didn't want to be there. There was nowhere for me to be. The place was, again, like, and I did what I could, but those youngins lived like animals, and like, I'm not there to discipline or anything like that. That's not my role. I just tried to be friends with them and clean up as best I could, and really trying to make plans to get the hell out of there. And that was for a few days until I ended up going back to jail on something entirely unrelated. But apparently during this time is when I pulled knives on people. Right. So like, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Because if I would have pulled a knife on somebody to make them uncomfortable, why didn't they confront me about that? Like, where was I at? Where was I at when I pulled this knife on anybody? Like, I really don't understand. Sounds like a crazy cult. Man. Yeah, like, I don't know, man. Well, and so here was the other thing. Let me just come out and say this too. The little girl, I'm not going to say her name, was just darling. Like, she reminded me of my granddaughter. Just a pure, innocent kid who was very smart, wise beyond her years, super sweet, super intelligent. I would lay down my life for any child. Like, I just love kids, and I'm not a weirdo, whatever. You can say whatever. I love kids. And I've sort of always wanted a daughter, and I don't have any kids. Not yet anyways, but so apparently, oh man. So one of this dude's friends in the past had apparently, allegedly molested this little girl long before I ever even knew any of them. I don't know when this happened, but this is before. And he mentioned this to me very early on. I'm like, oh, okay. So I know that's a thing. Also, I was very mentally and verbally abused as a child by my dad. Okay, very much so. And physically too sometimes. Never sexually abused, but I was mentally and verbally abused by my dad. And this dude was just absolutely mentally and verbally abusing this little girl. And I didn't say anything about it. It's not my place. That's his kid. But it was traumatizing to me to sit there, and he would like lay into this little girl for nothing and just keep on it. And like, she'd be to the point of tears and she didn't even do anything. I don't know if it's one of those situations where he like blamed her for being molested by his friend or whatever in the past. I don't know. But it almost seemed to me as if he blamed her because, like, I don't know. So, like, my granddaughter, when she was a little kid, like, I would play with her, like, and put her on my feet and pretend like she's flying, like grab her arms and put her on my feet and fly around. My granddaughter, when she was a little kid. Now, I didn't do anything like that with his daughter, but I love kids, and I understand how kids may like want to play with their parents' friends or their uncle or whatever. And you can't blame a little kid for getting molested because they're just an innocent little kid who likes to play. Like that to me, and I'm not saying that's what he was doing, but it almost seemed to me like he was trying to basically punish her way later on for being molested by one of his friends. Okay. And again, this is like, it breaks my heart to even bring this up. But so these are the things. At some point, when I got back out of jail the second time, basically they didn't want me on the property. I think they were expecting my wife to stay there for some reason. And they were shocked when they learned that I was with her. So something occurred while I was in jail, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I still haven't got the full story. But when I got back out of jail, basically, they wanted me gone. They didn't want me even setting foot on the property, and I didn't get it. And I was thinking, like, it could have been, like, what did they hate me so much for? Well, apparently, now I know it's because somebody's saying I pulled a knife on people, which never happened. So, and the fact that it's coming to me from Cammie, that proves to me that this is something that's out there in the ether or whatever, lies going around about me. And it really upsets me because, it's bad enough that we have to put up with lies and bullshit coming from the globetards, but when we have to deal with this coming from within the flat earth camp, it sucks. Okay, so the self says, did I have a falling out with everyone on the Globebusters? And is there anything else besides what you shared playing a part in the drama? Willing to donate, help out, but not if things being said are true. So I don't know, you'll have to be more specific, but no, I never had a falling out with anyone on the Globebusters except for one person, and that person is now dead. Talking about Bob, of course. And I've since made amends with Cammie and everything, and me and Cammie are on good speaking terms as far as I can tell, but it is kind of weird to me now, sort of back on. Yeah, it looks like we're getting a little bit of hiccups. Let me try to check. Looks like we're getting yeah, okay. What I was saying was I think it's kind of weird that Cammie never mentioned anything to me about being this alleged knife-wielding maniac until the day before we were talking about going to a Flat Earth meetup. Maybe she had just heard this, I don't know, but honestly, I don't understand people who hear a rumor and then just go on about believing the rumor, telling people about it as if it's true. And sometimes they even make their own little nuances to the lie because they think that makes them feel included or whatever. Someone had left a comment on my video earlier that Dave Weiss was the one saying I pulled a knife on somebody, but that doesn't make any sense. I mean, maybe he heard the lie and repeated it, generated the lie. That would be weird. As far as I know, Dave Weiss and I are friends, but to answer your question, no, there was no falling out with anyone on Globebusters except Bob. And honestly, I don't know what all was said about me, but I know a lot of things are said about me, and I don't listen to that. But people also apparently don't tell me what's being said about me. They just assume that it's true. So I would love to know exactly what was said, but so let's talk about Bob, man. And I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead. I've actually been kind of I beat myself up over this because I left things on very bad terms with Bob. And I sort of always assumed that I would have the ability to make amends with him and, sit back and laugh about it all one day. Because I always considered Bob a friend. Over the years that I've done Globebusters with Bob and Jaron and the guys, I never asked for any payment, never even would have thought to do such a thing. I always did Globebusters shows for free, never asked for a share of the ad revenue, never asked for anything. I was just glad to be on the panel with people that I know and love and can trust their research, like specifically Jaron. I know that I can trust Jaron's research. So if Jaron tells me something with a relatively high degree of confidence that it's true, sure, I'm going to check my premises always, but I value Jaron's opinions and assertions very highly because I've known him for a long time and I like the way he thinks. And I think Jaron and I complement each other very well because I'm very right-brained and left-handed and sort of abstract, whereas Jaron is way smarter on other things, right? So whatever, we're not going to get into it, but there was no falling out with Jaron. So what happened was, so let's just get it all out there, and this will be the one and only time that this ever has to be said, whatever. So Bob started really getting under my skin with certain things back in Denver, at the Flat Earth meetup in Denver. This really pissed me off at the time, and I'm way over it since, but this is what sort of led Bob and I down a path of irreconcilable differences, I guess you'd say. So we're in Denver, and Bob had asked me to just sort of write down on a cocktail napkin or whatever a topic that I would like to discuss on the Globebusters live show from the conference, right there on stage at the conference in Denver. And so what I wrote down was the moon being in the wrong place is proof. Based on the phase of the moon, we can tell that the heliocentric model doesn't work because oftentimes we see the moon in the sky when it shouldn't be in the sky. So like the full moon during broad daylight is incompatible with the heliocentric model, and the crescent moon in the middle of the night is also incompatible with the heliocentric model. And that's what I wrote down that I wanted to talk about on the show at Denver. And Bob came back to me and said, right before the show, he said, we can't talk about this because it's been debunked, and there's no way that I'm going to let you talk about this on Globebusters here, something to that effect. And I'm like, well, what do you mean that it's been debunked? How has it been debunked? And basically he said he didn't really understand it, but this guy, Rob, from a channel called The Bloody Truth, had done a bunch of videos debunking this proof. That's something that, as far as I know, I came up with on my own. So the phases of the moon proof, the moon not being where it should be in the sky, according to the heliocentric theory, is something that I came up with. And so it's very near and dear to my heart, especially because it's not something that a lot of people were talking about. And so when Bob said that it had been debunked by this guy, Rob, from The Bloody Truth, I knew who he was talking about because I had seen this dude's videos before, and I knew that he didn't actually debunk this proof. He just didn't understand it. It's not like he was straw manning me and proving or disproving some bullshit that I never said. No, he just literally didn't get it. And I could tell that he didn't get it because of the way he was going about debunking it. But ultimately didn't talk about that on the Glowbuster show, and in fact, I didn't say more than a couple of words on the whole show, and not because of anything other than we were having to split a microphone between like 4 people. And the Hero did a wonderful, very long speech that I'm not really 100% what he said, but I love Hero to death. I have trouble understanding him, but anyway. And that makes me sound like a dick for saying it, but I'm not trying to be a dick. So, lo and behold, after this happened, I went and researched through Rob, the Bloody Truth channel. And one of the first things that I found when I searched his channel was that he had actually recanted his position. At the time that we were doing the Denver conference, he had already done this. Rob from the Bloody Truth had recanted his position and in fact admitted that I was right about this. And in fact, the moon's phases are indicative of where the moon should be in terms of physical position relative to the Earth and the sun. According to the heliocentric model, it's very specific where the moon should be. And in many cases, we can observe the moon based on its current phase and its position in the sky when it should be on the other side of the ball Earth. So this is a really excellent proof that I came up with on my own, and I was just trying to talk about it because dude had asked me, like, what did I want to talk about? And again, what really upset me wasn't that he disagreed with me. That's not it at all. What upset me was that he basically wanted to gag something I was saying because of some debunk of it that he didn't even understand. He didn't claim to understand it. And like that right there, like it really rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't say anything about it. I really never said anything about it except maybe in a couple of private conversations with people, you, me, and the lamppost. This is the first time I've said anything about this publicly, but that really pissed me off. And I got over it. I didn't make any kind of big deal of it because, like for the solidarity and for the good of the community. And so I ate that. But it did get under my skin. Okay, so fast forward to a point where I moved from Florida to South Carolina. This was a few years later. And right before I moved from Florida to South Carolina, there were 2 Glowbuster shows in a row, 2, I think it was Saturdays in a row, but it may have been Sundays, where at the last minute, like I was ready to do the show and like it was 5 minutes after the time we were supposed to start and Bob tells me the show's canceled. Okay, fine, whatever. The next weekend, the same thing. Getting ready to do the show. As far as I know, we're doing it. Last minute, show gets canceled. Fine, whatever. The next weekend, I had to move from Florida to South Carolina. And to where I moved to, there was no internet. You couldn't get internet out there because it was like 100 feet from the road and the cable company wouldn't run a line out there. So basically, and I kind of assumed that we weren't going to do a show that day anyway because they had canceled the last 2 in a row, and they were going on a break anyways, as far as I knew, right? So whatever. During this time, basically Bob, I didn't even know it at the time, but he was making public statements about me like that weren't true. And I don't even really know the extent of it, but I guess he was doing public statements about me and I hadn't even spoken with him. Like the only I had spoken with him was the one week we were supposed to do a show and he canceled it at the last minute. The next week we were supposed to do a show and he canceled it at the last minute. And then the next week I moved and I didn't have internet for like a month. And so I lost out of touch with them. But again, I kind of figured that Bob would call me to find out, like, when are you going to do the show anymore? Or when are we going to do the show? He never called me at all. I hadn't talked to him, but he's got my phone number. So it's not like I need internet for him to call me. But he was on Glowbusters making some kind of statements about me and I hadn't even spoken with him. So that kind of upset me, but I didn't even realize that till way later. So whatever. So then way later on, the Rockfin thing happened where they switched over half the Globebuster show over to Rockfin, which is like a paywall thing for them. And Bob offered this. It was nothing that I asked for or ever, would have dreamed of asking for, but Bob volunteered that they would start paying me for being a panel member on the Globebusters now that they had moved it to Rockfin. And I thought that was great. It wasn't much. It was $50 an episode. And he also told me that if I came to the show with some kind of presentations to do, that he would bump it up to 100, which that never actually happened. And really, whenever I tried to bring presentation material to the show, it usually never happened because we ran out of time, whatever. But I can always present something, but it just seems to me like, I don't know, it just seemed to me like Bob didn't like me for some reason, and he would rather give the mic to somebody else other than me. And I never understood it, but whatever. My ego's not that important to me. And so when Bob offered to pay me $50 a show on Globebusters, that's great, fine, cherry on top. But that was never something that I asked for, and it was never part of the deal with Globebusters anyway. I never made any money working with Globebusters. Never expected it. It never came up in the conversation until Bob volunteered to do it. And so once that happened, though, it was like Bob felt like he could just treat me any old way he wanted. And again, not to speak ill of the dead, but he told me off if I let him know, hey, I might be 5 minutes late. And it was such a double standard because I was usually the one that was sitting there 30 minutes early waiting for the link to join because I like to be prepared for hangouts that I'm doing. But also, a lot of other people that were panel members would sometimes be late and sometimes not show up at all. And as far as I could tell, it was never an issue. But let me tell you, he talked to me like a fucking dog for nothing. Basically, like usually I was just on time and everything's fine. But there was a couple times when I would text him and say, hey, I might be 5 or 10 minutes late for sound checks. And he would be like, well, you know what, John, blah, 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 just don't worry about it. And he wouldn't send me the link. And so like I just planned my whole Sunday around doing a show. And because I might be a couple minutes late, then, my plans have now changed because I thought it was very unfair. And again, this really started when money got involved. It's not like it was a lot of money. I'm not going to live or die based on $50 a week or whatever, but it was a nice thing. And, I appreciated it and everything. But at the same time, that doesn't give you the right to treat me like shit. Okay. So that really pissed me off. But, the straw that broke the camel's back was just a very, and again, I hate to speak ill of the dead, but I just want to get this out there, was the Two-Face thing. I don't know if you guys remember, but the last few episodes of the Globebusters that I was on, I was having problems with my computer. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even get it to boot up. So I wasn't able to edit videos or do anything. I was dead in the water. And I was having to do the Globebusters live stream from my phone. And live on the air, several different times, Bob offered to fix my computer. He told me that he's got spare parts laying around and it's not a big deal. He fixes computers all the time, and all I need to do is just bring my computer up to Spartanburg and he'd fix it for me. He probably said this 5 different times on live streams on the show. But whenever I would try to make actual logistical plans to get the computer over to him, he would always sort of back out and didn't want to do it and whatever. And I'm not going to push the issue, but he was the one offering. Like he was going out of his way to offer on the air, right? But finally, I was planning on going up to Spartanburg for the day anyways for something unrelated, and I asked Bob hey, if I stop by with my computer, do you think you could take a look at it for me? And he fucking blew up at me that my fucking computer wasn't his problem, and he wasn't gonna fix my fucking computer, and I needed to stop bugging him about my fucking computer and this and that. And like, and if I can't get my shit together, then he doesn't want me on Globebusters anymore. And then like, it was ugly. And I never did anything to deserve that. I had always been nothing but respectful to Bob. Never said 2 cross words to Bob. If I disagreed with Bob, I really just bit my lip, kept my mouth shut, go along to get along. I'm not the confrontational type of person, but when somebody presents to the world, you know, some magnanimous virtue signaling, like, oh, I'll help you fix your computer, but then in reality, behind closed doors, like, he just thinks I'm some piece of shit, and he wouldn't give me air if I was in a fucking jug. And so, dude, that right there, you know, that blew my mind. It really pissed me off. And so what I did was, a little time went by, and I really don't know what was said about me. Like, I know that in past iterations, Bob had made statements about me, pretending to profess to know what's going on in my personal life when he hadn't even called me. He didn't know what the fuck was going on with me. And yet he was making these bold, sweeping, heartfelt statements about me when he didn't know what was going on with me. So like, two-faced shit going on here. And so what I did was, I made a video talking about all this stuff and some other stuff, directed at Bob, telling him all super mean in this video. So mean. Like, I said things that I regret. I was very insulting to him. And basically I told Jaron, hey, I uploaded this video. It's private right now, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to see it before I go live with it, because there's some stuff going on with Bob that's not on the up and up. And basically talk me out of it, talk me out of going public with this. And ultimately he did. And ultimately I'm glad that I didn't release that video. I never went public with it, but I did make it. And I was ready, like, I really was ready to put that video out, because I felt like I was done wrong. And this is by somebody who I've only ever bent over backwards freely for Bob and for the Globebusters, for real. Never asked for nothing from them. I was really just happy to be a part of the show and to be a part of something that I felt was important. Never asked for a dime for payment for my contribution to the show. And when that payment was offered, it was voluntarily offered by Bob. And it changed things. Again, it wasn't that much money. Like, all in all, it couldn't have been more than $500 total over the whole time that I was working with them on Rockfit, you know, since they switched over to Rockfit. I could care less about the money, honestly. Like, yeah, we need money for the world to go around, but also at the same time, I'm not a whore. Like, just because you pay me $50 for 3 hours of my time does not give you the right to just treat me like shit. And I could even look past that, like, whatever, I've got skin, you know, like, it takes a lot to really bother me. But when he was like presenting, like, you know, just for show, that he was offering to fix my computer just for show, but in reality he had no intention of that. In fact, like, how dare I even fucking ask to fix my computer when he was the one offering? It really struck a nerve with me. And it was right at that time that that Bob ended my relationship with Globebusters. And so no, to answer the question, there was no big falling out with Globebusters. I'm still friends with all of them. I'm friends with Cammie too. And I think that I would be making amends or have made amends with Bob and be friends with Bob if he hadn't have passed away. And it's a shame. And I regret it every day. I really do, because there was a time when I thought of Bob as a friend. I love Bob. And it's a shame to see, meaningful friendships, especially as flat earthers, crumbling over $50 or whatever. It is a shame. And what's really bizarre about the whole thing was that, I don't know, within a week or two before he died, it was preying on me. Like, I was thinking about calling Bob. Like, there was a few times when I almost picked up the phone and called him, but I just kind of half expected that he was going to be really mean to me, so I didn't. I wish that I had, because one of the things, so like in that video that I made that I never published, towards the end of it, even then I felt bad about what I was saying, because this is Bob, and I was being super mean. Like, I said some shit that I should have never said, and it was very wrong of me to do that. And so at the end of that video, I was even feeling bad about what I said then, and I was like, look, man, if you want somebody to start an exercise regimen with you and maybe work as a personal trainer with you and help you try to get back into shape, because I think that was a lot of his problem, was just, regular American lifestyle, being out of shape. Even something as simple as like breathing properly. A lot of people don't realize, but, we've got sort of two sets of lungs, right? You've got lungs and then these little mini lungs at the bottom that fill up with carbon dioxide, right? And unless you completely expel all the air out of your lungs as a regular course of breathing, you get this CO2 buildup in the bottom parts of your lungs, and it's very unhealthy. It leads to all sorts of health problems. And so I was offering, just to be a friend to Bob. Again, that's one of the reasons I even came back to South Carolina from Kansas and it wasn't the only factor, but because Bob was here. It was either go west or east, and I chose east because I knew Bob was right in Spartanburg, and I thought we were friends right up to that time. But again, shit changed, and like, I don't know how much of this is people hearing rumors, believing them, and repeating them. Like, I really don't know. So let me go back up and I saw a couple comments come through that I didn't respond to. Fritz Doysters, Morgile, I've been following your content for years. Really appreciate it. The point is, I can't donate you through my bank in the Netherlands. Donations are only for nonprofit organizations, so I don't accept donations because I'm not a 401c3 church or whatever, but I do take contributions or whatever you want to call it, just not donations. There are legal distinctions between donations and contributions, and donations imply basically that it's tax deductible. So if you contribute to my channel, it's not tax deductible, so there are no donations. Just to make that distinction. And I appreciate the comment. I've got Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, and Patreon. So, and I think even Facebook, like, you can send funds over Facebook if you want. YouTube says, I think I remember those days, Morgile. Yeah, I mean, it was the last few episodes I did with Globebusters was when this happened, and I didn't say anything about it. I'm not like an alarmist. I'm not after sensationalism or anything like that. But it is important to me that people know the truth, because again, I don't know the extent of the shit that's said about me behind my back, but apparently there's a lot. I mean, at least when it comes to Cammie coming to me saying that, and I don't know if she believed it or what, that I pulled a knife on somebody's 7-year-old daughter or whatever. That's fucking crazy. I've never done that. Never would I. Never would I. And the woman that's claiming that she doesn't feel comfortable around me, I've never been anything but courteous, respectful, and helpful as I could be to these people. Like, really, I don't get it. I really don't understand it. I mean, it doesn't matter. But so basically now when I'm texting them, trying to figure out who exactly is spreading these lies about me, they're not that interested in figuring it out. They don't want to relive the past. I don't get it. Like, I mean, that almost sounds like something that somebody who's spreading the lies would say. They don't want to relive the past. Well, you know, I kind of do, because apparently there's a lot of stuff in the past that I missed because, you know, I'm over here supposedly pulling knives on people that's a lie. And now there's stigma around me showing up to a flat earth meetup because people aren't comfortable. Get the fuck out of here with that. And really, I'm sorry that anybody feels that way about me, because I'm a pacifist, man. Honestly, I wouldn't hurt a fucking fly. I really wouldn't. And I never did anything to hurt any of those people. So it really comes as a shock to me. It hurts my feelings more than anything, really.
Still like it.
Stephanie Campbell says, oh yeah, people say all kinds of things on air. It's quite different later on. Yeah, I know. But see, my dumbass, I actually thought that he meant it. And because as a matter of fact, he had remoted into my computer a few times and helped. What it is my computer's got 4 gigs of RAM, and it was originally a Windows 7 machine. But when I first got it secondhand from a friend, overnight, it upgraded itself to Windows 11. So Windows 11 with this processor and 4 gigs of RAM, it was just running super shitty. And so Bob actually remoted in, and he was able to get it running a lot better for a time. But it's just, it needs a memory upgrade. But apparently, I mean, he was way better at that sort of thing than I am. And he did do that. And he didn't ask nothing for it either. I mean, I guess partially it was selfish because he wanted me to be able to participate in the show without hiccups. But, you know, at the same time, he offered. And so if somebody offers me, I'll take them up on it. Like, I don't go offering shit for likes or whatever. If I offer to do something for somebody, I intend, you know, to do it if they ask, for real. Gypsy Little says, if you're an easy target for mistreatment, I'd recommend a YouTube channel called Shanine Meji. Never heard of it. Stephanie Campbell says, money changes things. Yeah, I guess it does, doesn't it? And, you know, from what I gathered, Bob made a great deal of money. I don't know, but he bragged about it all the time that he was making a lot of money on Rockfin. And, you know, that's good for him. I'm glad to see my friends be successful. But at the same time, you know, just because you pay somebody a little bit of money for their time does not give you the right to just treat them like shit. Sorry. And I love Bob. I feel bad saying this, and, you know, he's not here to defend himself. I wish he was here. I really do. I wish I could bust his chops, and I wish that I had a do-over, and I could have called him when I had an urge to call him a few weeks before he passed. And I wish that we could have done some kind of an exercise regimen where, you know, maybe I could have helped him with his health, you know. And I still to this day don't know exactly what happened, but people ask me all the time, you know, how did Bob die? From what I gather, he had a lot of health problems, a lot of different things. He was diabetic. He was obese. He had probably high blood pressure, probably cholesterol issues. He had a lot of different health problems. Cammie mentioned a lot of other things. Like, the dude had stuff wrong with him that was serious stuff, but he also he didn't trust doctors, which I get it. I understand that. Like, I can totally understand not trusting doctors in general, because, you know, even if they're a very well-meaning doctor that does great work, at the same time, they are beholden to the guidelines of scientism in a lot of ways. And so, like, for example, a doctor can only ever tell you that cures can only be found in the form of drugs. There is no such thing as a cure for some disease or ailment that is not a drug, according to even the best medical doctors. And frankly, I know that that is wrong. Because, and I'm not going to tell you here because I will literally lose my YouTube channel, but I know of certain cures for certain things and lots of things that are not drugs. that are very easily accessible and freely found in nature, but you can't talk about that on YouTube, and certainly no doctor is ever going to suggest that because they could lose their medical license. So there is a problem, is there not, with a medical system where a practitioner of medicine can lose their license for curing a disease because the cure that they used was not a drug, right? And so, or like even not an FDA approved drug. And again, I don't want to go too far down this vein because it is territory where they will completely cancel your channel for talking about these things. So I'm going to stop talking about that. Let's keep on going down and reading through these. When you're defending yourself against false, this is Gypsy Little. When you're defending yourself against false accusations or verbal abuse, it's very difficult to be emotionally regulated, especially if you've experienced past ongoing trauma and abuse. Yeah, agreed. And that's a good point. I mean, I know I'm not perfect and I don't handle every situation the best way possible, but I do damn sure try. Like I try to be logical. I try to be civil. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. I try to really avoid confrontation. I try to go along to get along. I mean, I will tell you if I disagree with you, but like we can still be friends. But when you are, when I get accused of something that I know that I didn't do, my blood pressure starts getting up and I want to rectify it. Like I honestly, I don't understand why somebody would want to attack me because I really do go out of my way to try to be civil to people, unless you're like my sworn enemy, right? And I do have a few sworn enemies out there. Not that I've sworn to be their enemies, there's a lot of people out there that just fucking hate me and would love to see my painful, excruciating demise. A lot of people would love to see that. And so that's why I'm not surprised when these sort of accusations and rumors go around about me. But at the same time, it does hurt my feelings when it's people that I consider to be friends that are central to the whole thing. Michael Kahn says, these people treat many in this same way. You should distance yourself from them. They are agenda-driven, not truth-driven. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Lev Kung Fu Shaolin, abdominal breathing. Right, exactly. And so, like, I just wish things would have turned out differently with Bob, man. Like, honestly, we're never promised tomorrow. And that's a big reminder that, you know, first of all, love is the answer, man. Like, you know, I wasn't acting from a place of unconditional love when I made that video. And I'm glad, again, that I didn't post it. I'm glad that Jaron really talked me out of posting it. I'm glad that Cammie and I were able to at least make amends after the fact. Cammie and I had a real good, heartfelt conversation at the memorial. And we've been talking on and off since, trying to link up to do some recording because, you know, my equipment ain't really the best. And she had mentioned that they do have some equipment just sitting there collecting dust anyways. So it's been something that I've been wanting to do. But I guess it's probably not going to happen now because I am leaving the state soon. But maybe we'll have a chance to get together before I go. I don't know. But I got nothing but love for Cammie, Iru, Jaron, Bob, Zach, Zabala, all those guys, man. I love them and I think of them as family. And so, no, there was no falling out or anything. It's just, the whole thing is just, it sucks, man. We do the abdominal breathing naturally as children, but stop when we become adults. Yeah, you got to expel those lungs, man. And certain breathing techniques are just excellent for that. And I know it seems kind of hypocritical sitting here being a cigarette smoker. I know, but especially if you're a cigarette smoker, you should really practice or make a conscious effort to simply breathe properly. it'll do wonders for your body, for your digestion, for your energy levels. It really is an amazing thing, just simply breathing properly and expelling that carbon dioxide buildup in the lower sections of your lungs. It's super important. And it's something that if you've got somebody that is helping you with that, you know, it's really hard to self-regulate something like that. But if you've got somebody that's their function is to help you remember to, you know, every hour do 5 minutes of deep yoga breaths or whatever. And you can even breathe in and out different colors and stuff that had different therapeutic effects too. It's pretty amazing stuff. Along with, you know, maybe a change in diet and exercise. I just feel like there was a lot of potential there, and Bob maybe could have lived another 20 years. And not saying that I feel responsible for anything that happened, but I just wish that maybe I would be more proactive in trying to make amends with him and trying to, you know, maybe get things to come out different. But whatever, it's water under the bridge now, right? I mean, what can we do now? Other than learn from this and in the future going forward, don't let the petty stuff get to you. I mean, I could have handled things differently. I can't always control my temper. And I'm the type of person where if my temper starts flailing up, I walk away. I do. I just walk away because it's just not worth it. It's not worth the arguments and the bad blood and things coming to blows or even verbal blows. I'll walk away. I'm a pacifist. I really am. Twitchy says, me and the wife would have gladly picked you up for Flattoberfest that year. We were the ones that came from Asheville. Yeah, man. I mean, I drove all the way from Kansas. We were through the mountains of North Carolina, almost to the end of that, and had a tire blowout. And the car has locking lug nuts where you need a key to open the lug nuts. So it's not like I could just put the donut on there. I couldn't get the tire off, and I didn't have a grinder. On that car, there still is one tire that has those lock nuts on it because you got to grind them off with an angle grinder or whatever, and I just haven't done that one. But I appreciate that. But I had to sit there with the car until the axle got bent. The car had to get fixed, and I was like over 100 miles out. And if you would have gotten a hold of me, maybe I could have rode with you. But we had the dog and everything. Like it was a mess, and I wished I could have made it, but it just didn't work out. But I'm here now. Like that's the thing. Like. I'm here now and I've been here since, and I kind of had thought that I would have been hanging out with Bob this whole time, but that shit ultimately happened to where I blew up and said things I didn't mean, and you know, that's that. I mean, it is a crying ass shame, you know, it really is. And I appreciate you offering to pick up, you know, it's in the past. That is nice of you to say, though. I appreciate it. Let's see. Okay. Nice to see me posting more videos. I appreciate that, man. I've been putting up a lot of content here lately. Flat Earth is in my blood, man. I love doing the content, and I'll do it until I realistically can't do it no more. You know, it's that important to me to where I'll do it. I'll do Flat Earth stuff till I die. And I don't think we've seen, you know, the least of it yet. I think that going forward in the future, it's going to get even better. It can't get much worse, right? Twitchy says something about Karen B always put me off. She seemed aloof. Yeah, I don't know about Karen B, man. Like, I've done a shit ton of hangouts with her way back in the day when she was new to Flat Earth. She was the first Flat Earther I met in person because she came and picked me up to take me up to Candy Franklin's house, I Spy NASA Lives, for a very small private meetup. I've always got along very well with Karen B, and then the last couple times I've seen Karen B, she looks at me like she could cut my fucking head off. I don't know what I ever did to Karen B. But at Bob's memorial, she didn't say 2 words to me. I waved to her and smiled, and she didn't even wave and smile back. Maybe she didn't recognize me. I don't know. But I've never had a problem with Karen B per se, but I don't know. I think Karen B might have a problem with me. I don't know. When I saw her in Denver, it was kind of the same thing. Like I smiled and waved, and she looked at me like she could fucking cut my head off with laser beams. Like I don't know what that is, because she had done a bunch of Static Plain Truth hangouts with me on my channel way back in the day, like going back to 2017, 2018. I've done dozens of hangouts with Karen, and we always got along great. Never had 2 crosswords to say to Karen. Never had 2 crosswords with Karen. This is like a pattern, really. I don't get it, man. Like people that I consider my friends, that whether or not I've met them in person, but some of them I've met in person. As far as I know, we get along great. Always nothing but courteous, respectful, and helpful to these people. And then one day it's like my name is Mud. Like I really don't get it, but I don't know. Maybe Karen's got my number. Maybe she'll call me one day and tell me maybe I'm just imagining this, or maybe she'll tell me something that she believes I did to slight her. I really don't know. I don't know. What's up, Corey Murphy? Good to see you, man. Been a long time. Marve 2.2, are we keeping the house? No, we're out. We were given 5 days to vacate because we were not on the lease. The roommate was renting the home from the deed holder. She subletted to us, and we were not on the contract with the deed holder. And I never got a signed lease with her. Never, like we discussed doing a lease, and I had every intention to sign a lease, but she never produced it. But I did, get signed receipts from her, as well as, like PayPal transfers or Cash App transfers to her account. So it was documented where I'd been paying her, but it didn't matter because apparently I didn't have no legal right to be there because I never signed a lease, and because it was a subletting situation. I guess this is the first I've ever heard of that. I've never been through that before, but they gave us 5 days. And I think she must have known the judge or something, because really the judge was at least supposed to give us 5 business days. So like, we went to court on a Friday, and we had to be out by the Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. Was it Wednesday? Yeah, we had to be out it was Friday, we had to be out by Wednesday. They shouldn't have counted the weekends. Like we should have had Friday to Friday, but whatever. We weren't able to I wasn't even able to keep my stuff. I kept my guitar and my dog and a couple of my things, my clothes, my computer, my Xbox. That's it. Whatever could fit in the car. Yeah. It sucks, man. It is, I get panic attacks. Like I really do. It wears me thin to have to worry about rent every week. And we had just gotten out of that situation before we moved in there. And we were paying $675, all things considered, there with the rent and the utilities and everything. And helped her out as much as I could. Cleaned her side of the house innumerable times. Cooked dinner for her and did her laundry and folded it for her and walked dogs for her. I mean, I really try. I never asked for anything for that either. I don't know, man. Well, so what it was is she had one of her friends from work wanted to rent the place too. And I guess what it was is before I moved in there, it was not livable. Like you couldn't just move in there. It had gone off in there. It looked like a murder scene. And so I guess once I got everything straightened up, and it was very nice in there, although there was friction, like she had to come through our bedroom to get to the kitchen, and we had to go through her bedroom to get to the bathroom. And she was like filming us and stuff in there, which I didn't know. She never mentioned it to me. She was just secretly filming us in there, which was kind of weird. But then she got all bent out of shape when we asked her if she could just knock before entering, because she would just walk into our bedroom to like go to the kitchen, which whatever, it's her house too. It doesn't really bother me, but we just politely asked, would she knock? And that was a big, huge deal to her. Like, I don't like living with roommates either, man. But you know, sometimes we got to make sacrifices because this weekly hotel thing ain't feasible. And it's so stressful. It really is. It preys on my fucking nerves, man. Like, I get anxiety attacks and stuff because
Your nerves.
$470 is a lot of money to come up with every week. And because we had been doing this sort of thing for the years previously, burned through my savings, I finally got my ID and got back into my Bitcoin account, and there was $1,500 missing out of my Bitcoin account that was $1,500 in 2018. And so $1,500 worth of Bitcoin back in 2018, fast forwarded to today, I was out like 150 grand. I just found that out a few days ago. I was expecting to see over 100 grand in Bitcoin in my account once I finally got back into it, because I finally got my ID. I had been locked out. And yeah, I won't get into it, but I know who did it. Yeah, that's a motherfucker. Okay, What a World says, John, have you considered starting a new channel, doing more monetizable content? You're a skilled YouTuber with a great mind, voice, and experiences. Perhaps do interesting interviews. Yeah, actually I have. I've thought about completely, like, not abandoning my existing channels, but starting a new channel that isn't tied to these channels at all, that has nothing to do with Flat Earth, and really just maybe like video game reviews or movie reviews or something. Because yeah, you can make money on YouTube. You can make killer money on YouTube, but not if you're talking about anything important. Like, if you're talking about anything that rocks the boat at all, you might as well hang it up. Like, yeah, you can get your opinions and your ideas seen by a lot of people. I mean, the potential's there, but you're not going to make any money. And of course, we truthers, flat earthers, is not like we're doing flat earth content for the money, but to spend all your time doing something, you also have to live. Like, I mean, I wish I was independently wealthy. I really do. Because then I could do flat earth content and not have to worry about paying bills and being on the street and stuff like that. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And, you know, I'm still going to do what I can. But yeah, I've thought about doing that. I've thought of lots of ideas. And in fact, I've been discussing with Cammie, you know, maybe doing some collaborations with her and with Zach Zabala. Because making videos is a process. There's a lot of work involved. And if you're just one person doing everything, the quality of that work is necessarily going to suffer. It just is. You know, if I do a video, I write out everything, I research everything, write it all out, do all the narration recording, edit it, add the video elements to it, draw any diagrams that are involved in it, and then render it, upload it, and handle all the comments, you know, responding to comments and stuff on videos. It's a lot of work, but if you've got a team of people that are working on the same project, you know, every person has their own strong points, and so can focus on one element of that and really get better quality end results, better quality material, high production value. It's hard to do when you're one person. And so, yeah, I've been trying to get something started. I've been trying to start a band for a long time, and it's really hard to get people together to spend time on creative projects, because everybody's got their own lives, everybody's got their own bills, everybody has their own grind that they have to do. You know, it's kind of hard to do much of anything if you're working full time, like waiting tables, right? Because 6 days, 7 days a week are spent on your feet busting your ass for $2.12 an hour, plus whatever tips you get. It's really hard to dedicate any free time, especially if you've got a family. It's hard to dedicate any time to playing music or doing band practice or working on a video. And I think that's not by accident. Like, they've definitely got this world culture set up in such a way that we are enslaved to the very dollars that's supposed to be our wealth. We all know the US dollars are a debt. a dollar bill is a receipt for a debt. There is no inherent value to it, and it's a scam. They've been siphoning our wealth and our real estate away from us to the top 1% for over 100 years through the money. But at the same time, you have to participate in that system to live. You have to spend all of your time getting money so that you can give it all away for your bills. And that's by design. It's so that we are not easily able to get together and focus our collective efforts on some sort of project that's going to change anything or it's going to better humankind, right? I mean, that's the way it is now. I think that's all going to change, though, because, again, for so many generations, people didn't even know that all this deception was going on. And now that we've started unlocking the fact that there is all this deception, starting with flat Earth and then branching out to so many other things, people are starting to wake up. And so the first step in solving any sort of problem is awareness of that problem. I mean, how can you go about solving a problem if you don't even know that it exists? So really, thank God, I am very grateful that we live during these times of revelation and that we live in the generation that is experiencing things like the globe earth deception being dismantled and the monetary system deception being shown light on and on and on and on. I mean, there is so much injustice in this world. It's hard to imagine a scenario where it continues on unchecked for much longer. So, I mean, hopefully we have an ultimately peaceful resolution to all this stuff. But with so many things coming to a head, something's got to change and things will change. I just hope that it's not like a catastrophic failure that brings us to that change. And hopefully we can ease into this utopian future that is very much possible with the advent of things like generative AI hitting the mainstream. It's very exciting times indeed. Let's just try not to fuck it up for the grandkids, right? But yeah, so What a World, I have thought about doing other sorts of genres. The Self, what's your ideal plan with my channel? Honestly, like, unless YouTube changes their stance on flat Earth, then there's not a whole lot of plans in the future for this channel because there's no money in it. Like, I mean, if I was making killer money on YouTube, I could invest in things like new equipment and a studio to record in and maybe someone to help me with take care of editing and stuff like that. Build a team up, but it's kind of hard to spread around $100 every 3 months if I'm lucky, which is about what this channel earns on ad revenue, is $100 every 3 months. When I first started monetizing the channel, it got to the point where it was very, very much still a small channel, bringing in over $1,200 a month. And then the plug got pulled out. YouTube changed everything, and it's got to the point where I'm lucky to hit the $100 threshold in a 3-month period. I got to work my ass off to get that. And it's not anything that I'm doing wrong or doing differently. It's because YouTube has targeted this type of content as shadow banning material. And so they do. But so my plan as a YouTuber is exactly what I was just talking about, is to get into some other genre like bubblegum bullshit, like movie reviews or video game reviews or Let's Plays and things like that. And dedicate most of my time to that. And I'm certain that a lot of money can be made on YouTube because there's a lot of people that do make good money on YouTube. And maybe spend a small amount of time still doing flat Earth content because it is important to me. But those two channels wouldn't touch each other with a 10-foot pole, because once your channel gets associated with flat Earth related stuff, you're kind of doomed, I think. But anyway. 7K Islands, me and the wife stopped to speak to her and she looked at us like we were dirty or something. Stopped to speak with who? I don't know. Oh, and it just jumped. Okay, here we go. YouTube says you can send me 8 gigs of RAM. So if you can, that'd be awesome. I've got a laptop. I don't know what kind of RAM it is, but I it is a 64-bit system, so I think it will take an 8 gigabyte RAM chip. YouTube, I'm pretty sure you've got my number, but send me a text, man, because I'll get you the address and everything if you're serious. If you've got the right kind of RAM, it's 864-315-7892. I'll put it in the chat. I appreciate that. You've always been a scholar and a gentleman. Yeah, I think 8 gigs of RAM, this computer would fly. It's just, dude, it's so frustrating trying to edit and render video with this. It takes forever. Like, because when I'm working on videos, I switch between Sony Vegas Pro, Photoshop, Adobe InDesign, and then sometimes Flash, and then a couple other software programs. And with the way this system is now, it'll sometimes take me 15 minutes just switching between programs to do one thing. It's very frustrating. Like something that should take me 10 seconds to pop over here, do this, export that, pop over here. It should take less than a minute. I'm spending 15 minutes every time. So video editing is a painstaking and tedious process to begin with, right? But when you add that into the mix, it just makes you want to rip your fucking hair out. But yeah, 8 gigs of RAM would be, yeah, if you can find it, DDR3. I'll look at my computer. I don't even know off the top of my head the specs on this computer's RAM, but it's a laptop. It's a, I don't even know. I forget. It was a gift. I want to say Acer. I don't know. If you find it, I'll send you the specs and we'll see if the RAM fits. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you, you scholar and a gent. Twitchy is a psychopath. I don't know. The self, a free diver, once you learn proper breathing, it changed nearly everything. Yeah, okay, so if you're a free diver, that means you dive as deep as you can with no scuba tank. So you really gotta like really hold your breath and slowly let it out as you go. Yeah. So I'm sure that you don't have the sort of problems that I was mentioning that come along with that carbon dioxide buildup into the lower sections of your lungs. That Americans suffer from all sorts of health problems that can be totally avoided just by simply breathing properly. And of course, that sort of free diving is an excellent way to just naturally sort of, build up defenses against that naturally. Okay. So Twitchy says, wouldn't be surprised if that was the source of some of these issues. He says, I use a variation of the Wim Hof technique. Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Sorry. You can never help someone you don't understand, says Fritz Doisters. Little burst of hive from it. I don't know. We always realize after the fact a better way we could have accomplished a task. We are all human after all. That's right. We are. Nobody's perfect. And if I learned anything from this is just love is the answer, man. Don't let petty squabbles get in between decent friendships. And I kind of flew off the handle, I reacted. I can't change the way that I feel, and I probably should have stemmed that a bit. And I said some things that I regret, and I hope that I didn't contribute at all to his stress. I can't blame myself, but I don't know. The whole thing just sucks, man. Okay. Twitchy says, you made the mistake. Rufus St. Hobbins says, whatever happened to Stavely? I don't know. I was just talking to Stavely the other day. Wasn't I think. Twitchy says, you made the mistake of being a real person. In my opinion, you got arrested and the rumors flew out from that and it gave the enemy ammo against you. Yeah. So when I got arrested the second time, it was a really stressful situation. I haven't talked about it, but I didn't have anywhere to sleep. The house was always in disarray. There was literally chickens and ducks running around everywhere, which whatever, but it was like constantly feces, like animal feces everywhere. It was like living in a barn. It was disgusting. And I did try as best I could to keep it as straight as possible, but at the same time, like, I've got a really bad back. I was in a bad motorcycle wreck back October 10th of 2014, and I can't just lay anywhere and sleep. I can't sleep on a particle board floor with splinters in it. So like, it was a stressful situation, and I went up to the store, convenience store by the house. And I know the owner of the store. I've got a good rapport with the owner of the store for the few days or few weeks or whatever that I'd been staying there. And the owner of the store wasn't working, and I didn't have any money, but I really needed a beer, a single beer. And so I went and grabbed a can of Coors Banquet Gold, just a little, not a big tall boy, just a little can, a 20 ounce, 16 ounce can, I think, whatever. And I brought it to the counter, and I told the guy that's working, I've got credit at the store with Mike, the owner, and he wouldn't honor the credit. So I said, look, man, I'm really going through a stressful situation. If you can let me slide, I really need this beer. And again, I've got credit with Mike. So you want to write my name down? He's like, no, you can't have it. Put it back. And I said, well, what are you going to do if I walk out of the store with it? He said, well, I'm going to call the police. And I said, fine, call the police. Went outside, sat and waited. And then I drove to the cemetery and sat in the cemetery and drank that cold beer. Okay. Days later, I went to go get some food at Zaxby's. And as I was going to Zaxby's to get food, I got pulled over. And they pulled me over and arrested me for driving under suspension, which I didn't even know my license was suspended. And they tagged on a charge for petty larceny because of this beer that I stole. It was days earlier. So yeah, it was a stupid thing. I don't think I should have gone to jail for it because I did have credit with the owner of the store. It's like if you go to the same store every day and you let them keep your change, you get a rapport with them. And every time that I've been short on something, Mike would let it slide, and I always paid him back. He just wasn't working that night, and whatever. I didn't need the beer that bad, but I did take it, and I didn't pay for it. And it's not like I did it in secret. I even told the guy I was doing it. I've worked in retail and restaurant sort of situations. Honestly, if it was me on the other end of that counter, I wouldn't have fucking given a shit. Like, it was literally one single beer worth $1.50 or whatever. So yeah, it was stupid, and I shouldn't have done it. But so that's why I went to jail. And when I came out of jail, everything had changed. Like, these people hated my guts, and apparently that is when these rumors started. But the thing is I had talked to the guy on the phone after this, and he never said anything about anyone pulling a knife. He did say that his wife didn't want me on her property, but there was no reason ever given. And I respected that. I'm like, fine, you don't want me on your property. I still do need to come and get my stuff, though, because I had some things like my Xbox and stuff that was still at the house. Which, by the way, I believe that they either accidentally or on purpose broke that Xbox. I had to buy another one anyway. But yeah, the whole damn thing, man. The whole damn thing is a shitty situation. I really don't know exactly what happened when I was in jail. Mina tells me that nothing. What exactly happened while I was in jail? Nothing. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
They stay in that trailer up there. They never hardly come out.
Yeah. So that was the thing. So like the couple, the parents and the youngest daughter had a little trailer, like a little camper trailer, real tiny little camper trailer, parked outside by the house. And then the house was where the two teenage boys lived, like literal fucking wild animals. And whatever, I'm not judgy, but also at the same time, like, if I was going to be trying to stay there, I tried to make the place decent, and I thought maybe that's what pissed him off. I didn't know. And then when I had talked to the dude like later on, like while I was moving out, he had said something about how I had spilled a beer in his tent, and that really pissed him off. And then there was the whole thing about his wife
Please don't say
being
that.
on her menstrual cycle.
Stop,
I think
stop.
I mentioned that. It was just all very bizarre to me. And like I just try not to be confrontational. I tried to get along. I did the best that I could. And then finally, when finally we had some money coming in and I was wanting to pay them, they didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want me around. They didn't want my money. And I was like, well, if I get this loan, I'm still going to pay you, because I was still counting on a loan that I still never got. But anyway, the whole thing breaks my fucking heart, man, because like, here's the thing. I would have done anything for these people, anything, like within reason, I would have walked out into traffic for these people. I would have done so much and never asked for nothing, because I try to show appreciation when people do me a solid. And, I know it sounds like I was complaining that there was nowhere for me to sleep, and I can't sleep on a floor made out of particle board with splinters in it, but I didn't complain. I would just sleep in the car. I cleaned up everything I could and tried to make myself not a burden, and I don't think that was much appreciated or even noticed, but whatever. I didn't do it to be noticed or for accolades. I did it because I try to contribute as much as I can. But yeah. Twitchy says, you made the mistake of being a real person. In my opinion, you got arrested in the rumors flew. Okay, I read that. Yeah, I think that probably had a lot to do with it, right? Because somebody gets arrested, that makes them an evil, bad person that deserves to be in jail, of course. And I'm being sarcastic, but I've been arrested before for things that I never did. We won't get into that. It's in the past, but I've gone to jail for shit that I didn't do. And that's tough. It's tough when people bear false witness against you. And that goes on a permanent record that never goes away. So, yeah. Anyway, Corey Murphy says, yeah, bro, there having been menthol cigarettes here in California for almost a year now. I almost never smoke anyways, and just a few here and there. So they stopped selling menthols, huh? I didn't know that. Rufus St. Hubbins, breathing methods are done right, give you more of a relaxing effect than smoke and nicotine. Yeah, you can definitely catch a buzz off of proper breathing techniques. I don't do it often enough, but when I do, it's very relaxing, and it's healthy for you. It's really good for you. And yeah, if you know what you're doing, you can get super duper high off of breathing, like Kundalini breathing and yoga breathing and that sort of thing. Corey Murphy says, me living in this godforsaken homeless shelter is getting on my nerves. Damn, Corey, you're in a shelter, brother? I'm sorry, man. Well, I mean, at least there's one there that you can get to. I've thought about having to check into those, but I've got my little dog, and I just have a hard time putting Lily to sleep or giving up my dog just so I can have a place to lay my head. I'd rather sleep in my car and keep Lily. Really, that's the way I feel about it. Rufus St. Hubbins says, you should save up and buy a cheap pickup, $1,000 to $1,500 worth, and you can always make money many more ways with a pickup. Yeah, you're right, scrapping and stuff. Now, I've got an opportunity out on the West Coast that I'm going to take, so I'm making a move within the next month, and hopefully it'll be a change for the better. I think it will. I think you have not yet seen the last of the Morgile. Let's just put it that way. Forbidden Science says, your content has always been great and wholesome, and I've always thought you seemed like a lovely human. For what it's worth, if someone had tried to persuade me you had pulled a knife, yeah, I know, right? I appreciate that, and I get it. That's why I'm doing this. Like, I hate having to make this sort of a video or stream or whatever, but I just don't understand exactly what all is being said about me. And I know that there was some of that going on with Bob, God rest his soul, when I moved from Florida to South Carolina back in 2018, 2019. There was some of that then. And honestly, I don't listen to the drama. I don't give a fuck about the drama. I do care about my friends. I care about my family. And while I don't really care what people think about me, at the same time, if there's fucking lies going on about me, then I've got to stand up and say something, especially when it's getting in between my ability to safely and comfortably even visit a flat earth meetup, which that really hurts. And again, to the woman who said that she doesn't feel comfortable around me, I would really love to know what I ever did to you, which I never did anything to you except try to be very nice to you. That's it. So I don't know, man. I really don't get it. And I hope that I just pray that the truth comes out of this, and maybe this is all a big misunderstanding. I really don't know. But I will say again that I've never pulled a knife on anybody. Certainly not my wife. And again, I'm sorry that this person feels that way. And the last thing I want is someone to feel uncomfortable for me, but I'm a fucking sweetheart, honestly. I wouldn't hurt a fly, and I don't go around pulling knives on anybody. So now, again, well, let me rephrase that. If somebody was trying to harm my family or my friends, or like a child that I even knew or didn't know, if I saw someone trying to harm a child, I would fucking get on their ass. Okay. But other than that, I'm just not a confrontational person. I'm not into fighting people. I know people that are, and nothing against them. Some people love to fucking scrap. That ain't me, man. Just ain't. I'd rather go get my guitar and walk away, man. Okay. Forbidden Science says, maybe give Karen B a call if you can and clear things up directly. Sometimes that's the best way. Yeah, I've got her number. Maybe I'll call her. And that's the strangest thing. The last time I've interacted with Karen B, it's been a long time. We were friends. As far as I knew, she always came on my show and did hangouts, me, her, Candy, and other people, Static Plain Truth hangouts. And now all of a sudden, it's I don't know. So maybe you're right. Maybe I will call Karen and see, maybe she can shed some light on this, because I don't get it. Nevermind says, struggling to pay rent, but wasting money on a new Xbox. There's your priorities. Well, it wasn't a new Xbox. I bought an Xbox One at the pawn shop for less than $100. So whatever, shoot me. But we also watch movies on it. So it was either that or buy a DVD player or a Netflix box or whatever. So it serves more than one function. I bought it used at an Xbox. Don't you just love how people Nevermind say this? Struggling to pay rent, but wasting money on a new Xbox. So how did you know it was a new Xbox? By the way, it wasn't a new Xbox. It was a used Xbox. Get it right, man. But I just love how people are experts on my personal situation and what. So now I need this dude's permission to buy a used fucking secondhand Xbox at the pawn shop?
Who said
okay. That? Oh, Joe Nugent. Yeah, Russian Vid said the Morgile equals 33. So what? What does that even mean, man? What does that even mean? And I know what he does. He's got these little numerology calculators that he'll just all day long, all night long, put different words into all three of these different numerology calculators. And then eventually you're going to find shit that equals 33. So what? And in which numerology method did you find that? See, the thing is I don't subscribe to numerology. I think it's bullshit. So because Russian Vids finds that my name adds up to 33, what does that mean? Well, it means that Russian Vids is into fucking numerology. It doesn't have anything to do with me. Wow. And that's the other thing. As far as I knew, Russian Vids and I were on good terms. I may have poked a little fun at him because according to fucking Russian Vids, everything equals up to 33. Dude, it's the Freemasons that have this obsession with numerology. They're the ones that talk in code and have obsessions with all these different fucking sacred numbers or whatever. I could care less about numerology. Numbers are hypothetical placeholders for values of things. Doesn't mean shit to me. But so it's very important to Russian Vids to cherry pick different methods of numerologically calculating people's names, and now all of a sudden I have to defend my name adds up to 33. Who gives a shit? You know, Russian vids, whatever, man. For real. Like, I used to watch a lot of his videos, and I was really into the conspiracy theory stuff that he talked about, and I thought it was great entertainment. But at the end of the day, so what? And I'm glad that Russian vids came out talking about flat Earth stuff as well, but maybe show your face, dude. Show your face. Accuse me to my face of being a Freemason because the Morgile adds up to 33 in Chaldean numerology, or whichever one you cherry pick for that specific thing, and whatever. So that's basically it. Did I cover everything? So the Jaron and Nathan celestial navigation thing, yeah, again, so both those guys I considered friends. I don't want to have to pick sides. I think Nathan was way fucking wrong and out of line for calling Jaron all that stuff and accusing him of all kinds of shit just because they disagreed on something. Like, what's up with that? I didn't know he was talking that kind of shit, so that's wrong. And then, you know, Jaron defending himself on the recent video he did. I mean, I get it. Nathan was saying some pretty awful things about him, but I mean, do we really need to start going around calling each other ugly? I don't think there are any pretty flat earthers out there, at least not pretty dude flat earthers. So, I mean, come on, man. I mean, I'm not saying Nathan's pretty, but come on, we don't need to call each other ugly. And if I said Nathan was pretty, I think there'd be something fucking wrong with me because I'm a dude and Nathan's a dude, and that's like my buddy or whatever, my buddy across the pond. And, you know, again, Jaron I consider a friend too, so the whole thing makes me sick. I'm not gonna choose sides in this, but like, look, we're as flat earthers, can we just not fucking insult each other and accuse each other of shit? Like, what's up with that? Okay, pull the knife thing, the audiobook thing. So I just wanted to mention real quick about the audiobook Confusion in the Cosmos. I'm actually almost down to the end of that. I get so many complaints from people trying to disagree with premises that are outlined in that book. And that book is definitely geared towards Christian people, evangelical Christians who are globetards. That's definitely who that book was intended and written for and targeted to. But the thing is I didn't write that book. Those aren't my words. I am just strictly reading the audiobook really as a favor to some of my friends who really liked the book and wanted it as an audiobook. And so I agreed to do it. There's not any money in it for me or anything like that. I'm just doing it as a favor to my friends. Okay. And while I don't agree with every bit of information that's in that book, I do agree with a lot of it. And I think it's a good book. And so I'll read the audiobook, but
Yes.
I'm not going to defend the premises found in it because I didn't write the book. Okay, so there's that. The Bob thing, Google litigation, and the AI thing. So that's it. I've covered everything, and we're at 2 hours and 12 minutes.
Yeah, I just,
So, yeah, we're going to, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up, you guys. I do appreciate you hanging out with me. And did anybody else have any questions for me before I go? And also, if anybody has any insight, any input that might help me figure out what the fuck, like, what is this? What exactly are people saying about me? What do I need to defend myself for? I really don't know. So far, I've learned that I'm pulling knives on people's kids and.
Because wherever I move to.
Who's the person that accused me? Right, that's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying any names. If you know who they are, you know. If you don't know who they are, you don't know. I'll give you a hint. So these people were somehow involved with planning the Flat Earth meetup that was going on this weekend in Boiling Springs, I want to say. So if you think you know who they are, you're probably right. And if you don't know who they are, then you don't know who they are. But it's not my place for, I'm not going to go around saying names. I mean, I could. I don't have anything to hide. I'm just not trying to drag people through any sort of drama I'm just trying to stop the lies being spread about me from spreading any further. And I'm here going on the record saying that I've never pulled a knife on anyone, certainly not my wife, certainly not at these people's houses. And all I've really ever tried to do was be courteous, respectful, helpful, and kind to those people and show my gratitude for how they helped me. So, yeah, that's that. Russian Viz is a shill. Well, I mean, I'm not going to disagree. He has a channel called Wrestling Time Machine, breaks down WWE drama. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, to me, the Russian Vid stuff was kind of like in the vein of Alex Jones. It was just sensational entertainment, maybe with some truth and some weird conspiracy theory angles in there. But when people start labeling me as a Freemason, dude, trust me, I'm the furthest fucking thing from a Freemason you'll ever find. I've never been inside a Freemasonic lodge. I know a lot about Freemasonry because any truther worth their salt is eventually going to stumble on the Freemasons, right? They're all the presidents. They run the banking system. They run the world through these secretive blood oaths, and they hold their positions of power by keeping it in their brotherhood. And they'll pretend to be enemies on the surface, and behind closed doors, they're tightest friends. Example, John Kerry and George Bush during the 2004 election, I think that was it, where they were both bonesmen, skull and bonesmen, vying for the presidential position, one a Republican and one their nemesis Democrat, when in fact they were both from the same boys club. I think it's weird. I think Freemasonry is weird. I think most Freemasons are basically plausible deniability for the hierarchy. So most Freemasons are just hardworking, regular people trying to get a leg up in things like contract acquisitions, right? So they join the Freemasons to have a leg up on their competition, and that works. But they're not involved in any of the nefarious shit. They just pay their dues to the lodge and they get their perks, right? But on the other hand, you've got the higher-ups, the so-called worshipful masters of the lodge, that they've got ulterior agendas where the Blue Lodge, the neophytes into the lodge, they don't know what these guys are doing because it's compartmentalized. So I know that you can't trust Freemasons on certain things because they are sworn to keep the lodge's secrets. Upon pains of death, they won't divulge the lodge's secrets, and they will go out of their way to protect their brothers, even if it means to lie, cheat, steal, or break other oaths that they have taken, because they believe that the Freemasonic oaths are paramount. Like that oath trumps all their other oaths, whether it's a political oath, a religious oath, or any of that. You really can't trust Freemasons. Now, with that being said, my grandfather, whom I loved very dearly and highly respected, was high up with AHEPA, American Hellenistic something. I don't know, but I think it's like Freemasons. And so, you know, while I love my grandfather and respect him, if he was a Freemason, if that is what that sort of brotherhood is, and I think it is, then there was a side to him that I don't really know. But what I also know is that he and his military associates back during World War II and afterwards figured out that the earth was flat. And because of these military oaths and Freemasonic oaths, they couldn't tell anybody. But my grandfather did tell me when I was a young kid one time, did a slideshow showing me the footage from the high altitude weather balloons that they were launching up way back in the 1940s and 50s. So, you know, again, as much as whatever you may think about Freemasons, I also know that back in my grandfather's time and even before, anybody that wanted to be successful in really any sort of genre, whether it was military or building or artistic endeavors or architecture or successful in the world, then it really helped to be a Freemason. And that even continues to this day. So yeah, I don't know what's up with Karen B, who's watching the Watchers. As far as I know, we're friends, but the last couple times I've seen her, she didn't have 2 words to say to me, and I don't know what I ever did to her. So maybe I will give her a call if she'll talk to me. I've got nothing but love for Karen B, really. So I don't know. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap this up. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I've got 1 or 2 more chapters of the audiobook. I may do one today. I don't know. My throat's kind of dry, but we've still got some hours left. So if you do want to help me get through this sort of mess that I'm currently in with the hotel, I could sure use your help. A couple of you guys, David and Amy, helped out last week, and I was able to pay for the week and pay for the dog for the week. So that's bearing up against me tomorrow again. So hopefully I'll get this money that I've been waiting on for weeks, and it still hasn't come. But if it doesn't come by tomorrow, then I'm in the street. So if I can avoid that, that would be a huge blessing. PayPal's up and running, Cash App, Venmo, and Patreon. All the Morgile. Links are in the description. More content to come. Love you guys. Catch you on the next one. Stay true. Keep them all in your sights. Okay. We'll love you guys, and I'll see you very soon. Take it easy, and bye.
Something did to fire me.